Almost everybody walks around with a dysregulated nervous system. We were designed to experience fight or flight temporarily. We were not designed to experience it 24/7 because we weren't treated kindly, because we weren't spoken to kindly, because we received harsh words, because we were in a stressful environment. What do you think will happen if you continue that same stressful environment internally all throughout your life? Don't look at other people not working on themselves and feeling shame for the amount of time you're working on yourself. No, this is the best thing you could do for yourself, for your life, and for your relationships. You have to be there for you, because if you're not there for you, who will be? Hello, everybody. My name is Naomi Dunn. I'm an inner work coach, and this is Disrupt Your Norm, where I help you disrupt your current norm to help bring you to a better norm. My voice, I have a bit of a frog in my throat. That's why my voice sounds a little bit different today. Okay, so today I'm talking about what to do when you get overwhelmed really easily and really often in life. What I'm going to teach you about today is about your nervous system, because that is exactly what being overwhelmed relates to. It relates to your nervous system becoming triggered. And there are those who really don't get overwhelmed that often, and that's because their nervous system is really stabilized. So the key and the way to help yourself to stop becoming so overwhelmed so easily and so often is actually through nervous system regulation. The nervous system has lots of big terms and lots of information that we can learn about. But because you clicked on this video and you get overwhelmed easily, you need to take it in baby steps. You don't want to overwhelm yourself with immense information, because that's actually going to do the opposite to what you want, and that will overwhelm you more. You don't need to know all the terms. You don't need to know every single thing about your nervous system in order to heal it. You just need to know the basics. You need to have a good baseline, and that's what this video is for today. You may think that you don't have a nervous system problem, but today I'm going to show you how most of us do, and it shows up in different ways for everybody. There's people who walk around, they look like they're really calm and never overwhelmed, but internally they actually are, but they couldn't even see it for themselves. So there's lots of ways the nervous system shows up, and that's one of them. And that one is called freeze. So there's fight or flight, which you've heard, and then there's freeze, and then there's fawn. And so it's really important to know, how does my nervous system show up when I get overwhelmed? Because you see, we get lots of stress relieving tips in life, but some of them don't work for those who are in the fight or flight, because they work for those in freeze, and they don't work for those in freeze because it works for those in fawn. It doesn't work for those in fawn because it works for fight or flight. So this is why it's good to know, how does my nervous system show up when I'm overwhelmed? Okay, so with all of these things, I give this analogy so often, so I'm sorry if you're sick of it, if you've seen my other videos or podcasts, but I always talk about how those who have nervous system dysregulation, they wake up in the morning almost having, if you can imagine a glass, almost being filled with water, and that water is like their negative emotions, their feelings of overwhelm, and the glass is almost to the top. So when some minor inconvenience happens or something negative in their life happens, it's like you add a little bit of water each time a negative thing happens in your life. So if someone wakes up in the day with their glass almost full, what do you think will happen when a negative thing happens and more water gets poured in? It overflows really easily, and that's when we have our feelings of extreme overwhelm. And now these feelings of extreme overwhelm will show up, like I said, in fight or flight, in freeze, or in fawn. So let's find out today how you respond to those feelings of overwhelm, and keep in mind you can interchange. So let's begin to understand how fight or flight would show up for you, and then we're going to move on to freeze and fawn. So if you think of fight or flight, think of external typical things you would think of somebody who's really overwhelmed. They may get really angry at the situation. They may get really angry at the people next to them. They may have very little patience with those around them. They may start to yell. They may start to panic. You will tell in their body language, it just feels like panic. It may feel like panic in the mind. The thoughts are coming in at rapid speed, and the thoughts are negative, the words are coming out faster, your movement's going to be faster, you're going to almost have this feeling inside of your body that you're in danger. Okay, now all of these nervous system responses give a signal to the brain that you're in danger, and that's why the body responds this way. But the fight or flight mode is really going to trigger this feeling of I'm in danger. With the other two responses, fawn and freeze, you're not going to really think it or really notice the feeling of being in danger. It's going to be more suppressed, but it's still there. So with fight or flight, like I said, it's really this known feeling, okay, I feel like I'm in danger right now. I feel like something really, really, really bad is happening. I feel like I can't handle this. I feel like this is all too much to handle. And when small minor inconveniences happen, it feels like major problems. If you've ever seen somebody absolutely panic and make such a big deal out of a little deal, that's often because their body's in fight or flight. And keep in mind, some people are in this mode 24/7 all day, every day. And being in this mode it's really not great for yourself. It's really not great for your health. And it's not great for your relationships, but it's completely and utterly possible to help minimize this feeling, to then get to a point where you're much more stable. And if you do get triggered into fight or flight, which we all get triggered with our nervous system, I still get triggered with my nervous system. I had such a poor nervous system in the past that it was so bad that now I do still get triggered sometimes, and that's completely fine and that's normal, but I will know how to snap out of it. And I will, sometimes it comes up more frequently because of my past and because of how dysregulated I used to be. And that's okay too. I know how to snap out of it quicker than I used to. And that's the important thing. It's important to know you're not alone. It's important to realize that almost everybody walks around with a dysregulated nervous system. You're truly not alone. You're truly not the only person suffering with this. Okay, so like I said, your body just goes into panic and can usually be seen on the outside by other people when you're in fight or flight. If you have heard of the typical saying, being chased by a lion, your body's acting as if you're being chased by a lion. It literally is. It's a survival tactic that we have in our bodies that God gave us for when we actually experience major danger. And if you imagine a creature in the wild being chased by another creature that's trying to eat it, it goes into fight or flight, which means it turns on its adrenaline and cortisol and uses it as an energy source to help them escape, to help them get to safety. So that's what our body's doing too. But what does the animal do once it's in safety and once the creature is done trying to chase it and it's lost and it's gone somewhere else? The animal calms down, the animal shakes it off, the animal is able to move on to the next thing and almost forget about it. We were designed to experience fight or flight temporarily. We were not designed to experience it 24/7. But when we experience many traumas in life, when we experience many things that overwhelmed us and we never truly processed, what can happen is it can stay almost like a 24/7 type of thing. And this is when it becomes really detrimental to, like I said, to our health, to our friendships, to our family, to our relationships, and to our well-being. All right, now I'm going to move on to freeze. Now, freeze is something I really deeply understand because I spent most of my life in the freeze response. Now, what freeze means, instead of panicking externally and internally, we do panic internally, but it shows up different than the fight or flight. How it actually shows up is it shows up almost like your body and brain shutting down. This can turn into extreme exhaustion. This can turn into dissociation, which is when you almost become numb, you don't feel your feelings, and life doesn't really feel real, okay? It can turn into your body starting to crave specific cravings that you usually turn to, such as sugar, such as going on TikTok, going on YouTube, going on your phone, or such as, talking to somebody who always provides dopamine for you, or just any dopamine activity. Your body tends to really crave those because what freeze is freeze is suppressing the feeling. Freeze happens, and freeze happens consistently when we have so much overwhelm in our life, whether it's trauma or cortisol spiking experiences, that the body says enough is enough. It's time to stop feeling this pain because this pain is too much. I've experienced this pain far too often. Time to shut it down. Time to start suppressing the pain and time to start feeling nothing. This is healthy when it's occasional and when it's for the big traumas that happen. But if this happens too consistently, this can also turn into a 24/7 thing. And this is what I experienced myself. And this freeze response is really debilitating. It can make you extremely unmotivated, extremely tired, extremely fatigued, and the dissociation is what really got to me. I ended up having derealization identity disorder, which is when the dissociation is so heightened that life truly doesn't feel real. I remember I would go on walks and I would just walk in the middle of the street, not caring that a car could come because I didn't feel like life was real. That's how extreme it got for me because I had suppressed for so long. And this is the importance of feeling your feelings. So freeze response is really difficult to have, and it's less known as an overwhelm symptom because it just looks like someone is really tired and somebody is just maybe didn't get enough sleep the night before, or they're just always tired, or maybe they're even sick. You know, a lot of people thought I was sick during this time, and so I went to like naturopaths and doctors and stuff because I was just consistently tired. But I was truly just in the freeze response. That was it. My body was in overwhelm. My nervous system was dysregulated, and it had gotten so far that it became a 24/7 thing for me. And so yeah, it's a very real thing, and I feel for you if you have any of these problems, and I especially relate if you struggle with going into freeze. And many of us do for temporary times. You know, I really often hear about when people move to different countries and they do something really unfamiliar. The nervous system can often get triggered when we do things unfamiliar. So when people move to other countries, they often go into freeze response. They find themselves napping and going on social media way more than they used to, and eating the snacks they don't want to eat, and, you know, just becoming really lazy, quote unquote, because their body's actually rejecting the unfamiliar, feeling unsafe, and channeling that into the freeze response in the nervous system. So number 3 is the fawn response, which is less known but is really important to know about. And the fawn response often can get triggered when we're in situations where we feel threatened by other people. And the reason this happens is because we had an experience, or many experiences in life. It's usually many experiences like in our childhood with our caregivers, where our personality, our words, and our responses actually created an effect of our caregiver or somebody in our life actually having a negative response towards us. So what I mean by this is, this could look like, you know, if I think I said this in one of my recent videos, you know, if you had a temper tantrum and your parent responded with emotional abuse, physical abuse, or neglect, where when you did something, the aftermath could have been a really negative response from somebody else that made your body feel unsafe, that made your body spike in cortisol, that made you feel really bad. And because of that, your brain got the signal that when I do things that bother other people, I then become in danger. I'm no longer safe. And the body and the brain is just trying to make you safe. It just wants you to survive. And so when you get this message, what happens is fawn can become your default. And fawn is essentially where you become submissive to other people. You do what they say. And, you know, if you're in a situation where somebody is abusing you, you almost take it and you almost allow it, because if I don't allow this behavior, if I don't submit to it, if I don't just sit back and take it, what could happen is their response could put me in even more danger. Now, I don't want to say too many triggering words, and I don't want to say anything that also could get this YouTube video banned, but what I will say is, I'm sure you've heard of this situation before where somebody is abused in a specific type of way and they don't fight for themselves. Oh, this breaks my heart. Oh, this is so sad. Oh my gosh. They don't fight for themselves. So they just take it. And one of the most horrible things out of that entire situation is the fact that they then feel shame for the other person's abuse. They then feel the shame that the other person is supposed to feel, because they feel like because they didn't stand up for themselves, that they allowed it to happen, that they're the bad person. This is such a common phenomenon, and if you've gone through this, I'm so sorry. And people who experience fawn carry so much shame in life. And I'm here to say that that's not your shame to hold on to. That's your shame to let go of, and that this is your time now to realize you were responding out of fawn. You were not responding out of anything else except your nervous system feeling scared. Your body felt unsafe. Your body felt like you were in danger, so you did the best that you knew how. Okay. So now what do we do about this? So now that we know the differences between all of them and how it may show up and how sometimes we may interchange between fight or flight or freeze or fawn or whatever it may be, now we have to know, what do we do when we get triggered? And I'm going to give you some general tips that apply to every single nervous system response. And then I'm going to give you specifics, because if you do something to help with your fight or flight when you're really in freeze, it can kind of make it worse and not resolve anything. And same with the other ones, vice versa. Okay, so some things in general. Number 1, you have to be kind to yourself, no matter what, and always. Being kind to yourself does not mean you're not going to be responsible. Being kind to yourself does not mean you're going to be lazy, or you're not going to do what you have to do, and you're not going to have any morals. That's nothing to do with that. Being kind to yourself is one of the number 1 ways to consistently calm the nervous system. No matter what happens in life, I need you to speak calmly. I need you to speak kindly. And whatever benefit you think that you get from being unkind to yourself, from being harsh to yourself, from being rude to yourself, the reality is that benefit can never come from you being unkind to yourself. It can only come from being kind to yourself. Because when you're kind to yourself and when you do care about yourself, you will want to do the things that you have to do. You will want to change in those specific ways. Being rude to yourself will only ever amplify the nervous system dysregulation. You see, so many of us have nervous system dysregulation, get so overwhelmed so easily because we weren't treated kindly, because we weren't spoken to kindly, because we received harsh words, because we were in a stressful environment. So what do you think will happen if you continue that same stressful environment internally all throughout your life? Nothing will change. You cannot heal something from the same place that it began. You are just continuing the treatment that you should have never received in the first place. End the harsh words. Be kind to yourself always. This is something I live by, and I tell everyone to live by. Be calm. The way you would speak to a hurt child is the way I want you to speak to yourself, because the reality is the only reason your nervous system is so dysregulated is likely because you were a hurt child that never healed from it. Speak to yourself like a hurt child. How would you speak to the child who was hurt and maybe fell down and had something bad happen to them? You'd be so kind. You'd say, it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to work out. I'm going to take care of you. I'm here for you. We're going to be okay. Okay? All right, and now number 2 is asking yourself this question that my friend actually told me a couple years ago, because she actually worked with those with autism, and you know, those who are on the spectrum and those with ADHD and those with any mental disorder, they all relate to the nervous system, and they all cause the nervous system to become dysregulated. So the key to healing all of these things that create negative sensations in your life and overwhelm is to start with the nervous system. That's the root of it all. And so she worked with children with autism, and those with autism will know that you can often get overwhelmed very easily because it can come with a lot of nervous system dysregulation. And she would say something to her students and she would ask them, is this a big deal or is it a little deal? Oh my gosh, that alone is so profound. When you feel really overwhelmed in life, when you're going to any one of the nervous system dysregulation responses, ask yourself what's going on. Maybe you have to break it down because maybe you're overwhelmed by 100 things. You have to give yourself the time and ask yourself, is what's going on a big deal or a little deal? And for the most part, it's usually a little deal, and it's something we can take care of, but we have to see it for that. We have to realize it, because it can feel like such a big deal to our body when our body feels so overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, there's someone walking behind me. I have no idea what he's carrying. Okay, number 3, like I just mentioned, you have to take time for yourself. Oh my gosh, if you guys had known how much time I had to take time for myself and still do. Okay, this is a lifelong thing because I want to have a healthy life. I want to feel good in life. So I make sure to consistently take time for myself. I don't allow it to ruminate. When I start to notice that I'm in fight or flight, freeze or fawn, I try to nip it in the butt and see it for what it is, because the more you allow it to ruminate, the more that it's going to gain control over you, the more overwhelming it's going to feel. You have to take the time, and it's okay to. It's a blessing to. You are the only one in your body. Okay, you no longer, if you're not at home anymore, you don't have your parents to take care of you. You have to be there for you, because if you're not there for you, who will be? It's not your husband or your wife's job. It's not your friend's job. If you're an adult, it's not your parents' job. It's your job. It's okay if you spend an hour or 2 a day taking care of yourself in this way. And if you see other people not doing that, that's still okay, because you know what? They could have nervous system issues that's completely affecting their lives, completely affecting their relationships. And because they're not working on it, they don't have as great of a quality of life because they're not working on it. So don't look at other people not working on themselves and feeling shame for the amount of time you're working on yourself. No, this is the best thing you could do for yourself, for your life, and for your relationships. So please don't feel bad for it. It's such an important thing to do. You know, some days it may take 5 minutes to regulate yourself. Some days it may take 2 hours, and some days it may not even work at all. But at least you tried. At least you showed up for yourself. And for those times where it feels like you did nothing at all, you still did something. You still showed up for yourself. I guarantee you still did calm your nervous system more than you realize. So keep taking the time for yourself and show up for yourself. So if you've never done this work before, you will spend more time in the beginning trying to heal it, because think of the years that you've spent in it. It will take more time in the beginning, but that time will minimize as life goes on. And when you get used to it, you will get to a place where when you do get triggered, it will be much less often, and you will be able to snap out of it much quicker than you were able to before. Maybe something that would have taken an hour for you to snap out of before might take 2 minutes in the future because you continue to work on it. Okay, the next thing is cultivating the feeling of safety in your body. Now, some people will tell you to just affirm, I am safe, but if you just say the words, I am safe, but you really feel like you're in danger, affirming that isn't going to have much impact on you and your body at all. The most important thing when you say anything that you're trying to convince yourself of, that you're trying to rewire your brain of, is to actually feel the feeling that comes with the affirmation, with the thing that you're trying to say and the thing that you're trying to live out. So as often as you can, with all of these states, fight or flight, freeze, fawn, you need to continue to try your best to feel the feeling of safety inside of you. You can start by saying, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe, until it starts to kind of flow in your body. And don't make this just an overnight thing. It's not going to impact you if you just do this overnight, but to continue your life reminding yourself, I'm safe. I'm no longer in that situation that was dangerous. I am safe, I am safe, I am safe, especially in those moments before you can feel it starting to get triggered, before you can feel your anxiety starting to heighten in the beginning stages, but also just throughout your days in general. Cultivate the feeling of I am safe. The next thing is feeling your feelings. This is so important for every single one of them. We often get into our overwhelmed states because we are suppressing a feeling, and then there's more feelings that were added on top of it that we keep pushing down until they explode out. And so that's why it's important to see feelings as a good thing, see emotions and releasing emotions as an amazing thing to help you function, to help you live, to help you have a better life. And when you see them as a good thing, allow yourself to feel them when they come up. This doesn't mean letting your feelings out on other people. This often means we have to step away in order to feel them, in order to come back to other people and engage again. But whether it's like sadness, whether it's anger, whatever emotion, your negative quote unquote emotion that is arising in you, try your best to release it and to feel it. And then I want to talk about processing the pain that caused you to have a dysregulated nervous system in the first place. You don't need to process every single trauma of your life. You don't need to process every pain you've ever been through. That's a misconception, and that might make you kind of go crazy, feeling like I haven't processed all of it. How am I ever going to heal? You want to process the main feelings that have come up in your life that caused you to get into this commonly overwhelmed state. Whether it's shame, whether it's a feeling of you being in danger, whether it's a feeling of you not being enough, whether it's a feeling of fear. The main feelings and maybe even the main events that could have caused the problems to occur. Those are the kind of things that you want to process, because when we process it, it's going to become much easier to feel that ease in your body, to have the ability to forgive and to move on. Emotional processing is huge, and emotional processing, if you struggle with it, is something I can help you with if you're looking for more of a one-on-one coaching thing. If you're noticing that you're getting to a really heightened state when you're trying to process, you're feeling like a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 or an 8, 9, 10, and it's getting a little too much, your body's going into panic. This is when you want to seek out help. This is when you want to be really easy on your body, really calm with yourself, because you don't want to make your body feel as if you're reliving it to the point where you're stuck. You want it to be a process of releasing the emotion, releasing the trauma, releasing the pain without setting yourself off into panic mode. So you can do this with certain things, and you'll notice your body at how it's reacting while you're trying to process, and you'll notice that sometimes you may need that help, and that's okay too. So when it comes to processing, what I like to do, what my favorite thing to do is EFT tapping. So that's what I like to do with clients. I've just find it the most effective. I have a video on EFT if you want to learn how to do it for yourself, or if you want to learn more about it. There's also for traumas is EMDR. There's just sitting and feeling your emotions the best that you can. There's journaling, there's breath work. Being in silence will often bring up the pain that we have been avoiding for so long. Allowing yourself to get rid of all the noise will often bring up the emotion that we're suppressing, because we're not on our phone. We're not trying to, eat something to take away the pain. We're not trying to distract ourselves with something else. So making it a conscious decision to process your pains, to process the things that come up, to process your emotions is so important to help with your overwhelm and your nervous system. All right, last but not least, before I get into a little more specifics for fight or flight, freeze, and fawn, this can be controversial. And the reason I'm saying it anyways is because you cannot change my mind about this, because I've experienced it and I've seen it too much in life to deny it. And that is that we can amplify our own nervous system dysregulation when we consciously, continuously think about the fact that we are screwed, that we have this terrible nervous system, that we have terrible mental health. When we continuously think this way and continuously dwell on it, it tends to amplify majorly. I remember there was a day where I was just in major panic mode all day, and I couldn't figure out why I was reacting so bad. And I had remembered the night before. The night before, I went down this rabbit hole of watching these YouTube videos that were to do with, nervous system dysregulation and certain mental health issues, and, people's symptoms and all the bad things that were happening to them. And every time I watched the video, I was like, yeah, I relate to that. I relate to that. Oh my gosh, I have that. Oh my gosh, my nervous system is so bad too. This. So when I was watching these videos, I kept reminding and affirming without even realizing I have a terrible nervous system. Everything is so bad. I'm not going to get better. My symptoms are so bad. So I had that the night before, and then the next day I was just in major panic mode all day. It was just horrible. The anxiety was so intense. I literally couldn't figure out what is going on with my body. Why am I screaming, crying right now? Why are these things happening to me right now? And then I realized I had amplified it because of the rabbit hole I had gone down. I had amplified it because I went into this state of pure belief that I have this terrible nervous system, which yes, you very well may have, but when you really convince yourself of how horrible it is and you keep reminding yourself of how horrible it is, it will get worse. If you continuously tell yourself you have something, you will begin to have more of that thing. I'm not telling you to deny what you have. This whole video is about awareness and then change. I want you to learn about it. I want you to change. But please don't amplify it by going down these rabbit holes and by continuously reminding yourself of the state you're in. I want you to instead remind yourself that you are safe and to do this work while feeling that safety in your body as much as you possibly can. Avoid going down too many rabbit holes because I really don't want you to make this worse for yourself. And I remember one day I was so fed up, I had said to myself, I said it with such conviction and such confidence that, oh, by the way, I apologize for the lighting becoming so dark and changing at the moment. I said with conviction and confidence that I no longer have emotional dysregulation. I no longer have nervous system dysregulation. And I just walked around with this confidence inside of my body. I no longer have that. I would see videos where it would pop up and I would say, that doesn't relate to me. I don't have nervous system issues. My body is good, my body is stable, my body is secure. I kept saying it, I kept believing it, and my symptoms lessened so much. Now, did they go away completely? No, but I changed the story. I changed the story in my mind, and whether the story is true or not for you, it does not matter because you pick the story that you have, and whichever you are leaning towards and affirming the most is what's going to get amplified in your life. And because I chose this other story of saying, I don't have this doesn't relate to me. You know, of course, I still did the work, I did the journaling, I did the EFT, I did the processing, but I just kept saying that to myself and believing it with conviction. Because I leaned towards that story, my symptoms seriously and significantly lessened. And the way I was able to snap out of triggering moments was so quick in comparison to the past, just because of this one decision, full body decision I had made in my mind. So that will seriously help you. It may not eliminate, but the story that you hold will drastically affect how your symptoms show up in your life when you believe it with conviction. All right, now let's go into actual specifics for each area. If you know, like, I really struggle with fight or flight, we're going to start with that and then move on to the others. So if you struggle with fight or flight, I want you to think of calming down versus freeze, because you're in this numb state where you're almost frozen and you're shutting down. It's more like waking up. Okay, so things that we can help, or things that we can do for fight or flight to calm ourselves down is, you know, I've talked about the processing and all of that, but there's other things as well. Like, we can do the breath work, we can do things to help lower the heart rate, we can listen to calming music, we can listen to nervous system regulating music, we can listen to a video where someone has a very calming voice. We can just do things that will really calm the body. And I told you to always speak kindly and calmly to yourself, but this is when you really want to amplify it. Speak so mellow, so calm, so kind. You know, maybe you're a texture person and you need to hold on to a soft blanket, something that will make you feel warm, something that makes you feel covered, something that makes you feel safe. Maybe you need to watch a video of a sunset or go outside, get some fresh air, things that just make you feel. We all have our things that help calm our bodies down. This is when you want to really ask yourself, what do I feel the calmest when doing? Maybe if you go to a gym and there's a sauna can feel really great to go into. Doing some 5-minute mindfulness practice videos on YouTube that can really help you. And just doing it with yourself, even with that nervous system regulating music on, putting your hand on your heart, feeling your heartbeat, and just taking those deep breaths, reminding yourself you are calm and you are safe. So then with freeze, we often have to go into, rather than a calm down, we have to go into a little bit more of a wake up. So freeze often stems from, like I said, those suppressed emotions. So we want to wake up those emotions. We want to listen to the sad song that's going to help get that emotion out of us. We want to scream into the pillow. We want to go on a run, and as we're going on this run, we're imagining the emotions being processed out of us, things that kind of snap us back into reality, because oftentimes in freeze we don't feel like we're in reality. We're getting really lazy. The to-do list is piling up because we're in this state where we want to do absolutely nothing. So we almost need to snap out of it in a very loving way. And when we get that wake up, when we feel that emotion, when we process it, when we do the EFT tapping, when we do the thing that wakes us up and we process the feeling, we tend to feel much better. All right, and then there is fawn. And like I said, this is when you take the abuse, when you submit to it, and when you don't stand up for yourself because you're fearing the danger that could come if you do. The first thing is the awareness, and that's the biggest thing out of all of this, realizing that you have this tendency to go into a certain state where you want to just allow it to happen to you because you're afraid of what could happen if you don't. When you can see that, you can realize, okay, maybe this situation won't truly set me off into this dangerous place. Maybe I will be okay if I do stand up for myself, or if I do take myself out of this situation, because we don't realize that we're acting from a place of often our child self being afraid to stand up and to walk away or to do anything out of that fear. We're still holding on to it. So when we see it, we can realize, oh, I'm not there anymore. I'm not my child self anymore. I'm not in this dangerous situation anymore. And now when I say standing up for yourself, I believe the most beneficial in every single situation differs, of course, but the most beneficial thing for your sake is not verbalizing it, is not standing up for yourself in the typical way. It's actually through what some people call energetic boundaries, where you remove your energy from the situation as a form of standing up for yourself. See, the only reason we're going to stand up for ourselves in the first place is because you're trying to protect yourself, you're trying to care for yourself. It's not about proving a point. And when we try and go down this path of just proving the point, that's where we can really heighten our anger and our sadness, because often it's not reciprocated by the other person. Because if this is someone who is continuously, manipulative or abusive, they're often not going to see your point or, respond in the way you want. But an energetic boundary is when we actually remove our energy, when we actually turn away, where we actually don't respond, and when we remove ourselves from the situation instead of going down the path of trying to prove a point that I'm worthy, I'm enough, you shouldn't treat me this way. No, you don't have to go back and show that you're enough and show that you're worthy and show that you shouldn't have been treated this way. You energetically removing yourself is showing it without words in the most profound way that you could. And you don't need anybody else to tell you that you're worthy and you're enough. This needs to be something that you cultivate inside of yourself. This should not be something that you try to prove to other people. It's the best thing you could do for your nervous system, instead of heightening your emotions through arguing, through yelling, and through, trying to prove this point. So that's the biggest thing with fawn. And of course, after these moments of, being triggered, we're going to go back to the calming down. We're going to go back to the nervous system regulating activities I just told you about to process the moment. But to not act in fawn like you're used to, this is what we need to do. So this video is really long. If you find yourself going back into certain states, back into panic mode, back into any of this, extreme dysregulation, come back to the video. Maybe come back to a video or a section of the video that resonated with you, or rewatch it to help understand the information even better, because there's a lot of potent information on this, and you don't need to go down these rabbit holes like I told you of watching hundreds of videos and trying to get all the information, because often when we're doing this, we're avoiding embodying the information we already know that will change our lives. So if you watch this till the end, wow, that's amazing. Good for you. I'm proud of you for caring about yourself enough and your health enough and your wellness to want to watch this entire video or to listen to this podcast. So that's amazing. If you need any extra additional help, all my one-on-one coaching is down below. A lot of my focus is on nervous system regulation and trauma processing and emotional healing. That's what I love to do. And so if you want any information on that, or if you have any questions, you can email me, which will also be below. Thank you very much for watching. This is so dark right now. The lighting is terrible, but I really appreciate you guys. And I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.